Hello everyone and welcome back to another video. Is that how I start these? My gosh, it has been forever and a day since I've recorded a YouTube video. I was about to say channel or episode. I don't even know what these are called anymore. But I've been seeing a lot of my favorite YouTubers resurface, making videos. You've got Pete Dorr kind of making a resurgence with his channel, TV and Lust, Craig, Steph's Too Deaf. I saw Johnny Depp fan 14 something rather. My gosh, it's been nothing short of a joy to see them coming back and recording videos again. And I just thought maybe it's about time that I revive the Ari Lewis 2011 channel and just record a video talking about what I've been playing in the past several years. I've got a small pile of games here that I would like to talk about. And then also, am I still creating content? And I'll answer that question now. The short answer is yes. I actually record a podcast with my brother-in-law, and it's really just been an extension of what I did here on YouTube, talking about games, talking about movies, and an assortment of other things. And you might remember, if you followed my channel this long, that my wife Lauren and I recorded a couple of videos about 2 years ago, just discussing some of our favorite films. And we didn't have a microphone. It was just recorded off of my MacBook Pro or whatever it was at the time, which there's nothing wrong with that. But it just, I think more than anything, it wasn't necessarily the quality of my videos. It was the community aspect. I just quickly recognized that the YouTube gaming community that I was once a part of was not what it was. I think back in the 2008 to 2012 or 13 timeframe, it was something really special. It was very community focused, and I feel incredibly fortunate to have been a part of that, because not only would I never have played most of the games I've played over the past decade, but more importantly, I met some phenomenal, very genuine people that even to this day I talk to, I stay in contact with, and I've even had on my podcast as a guest. And Jason Heine, the EMU Review, as he was once known, now Heine House Entertainment, recorded the intro to my podcast. 10 years ago, I would have been lucky if that guy even knew that I existed, you know? Pete Dorr has been on my podcast. Those guys were once celebrities, and now they're friends. And it's crazy to say that, but it's really cool to also say that. And so, yeah, I'm just here today to share where I've been. And so, again, I have this pile of games that I want to talk about. We always say this when we come on YouTube, right? I don't want this to go on too long, but we're going to ramble. We're going to go down rabbit holes we never would have expected. And this will be longer than anyone is going to probably listen to. But I'm going to record it anyways because I like doing this. And funny enough, it is nearly 10 years to the day that I recorded my first YouTube video. June 25th, 2010. I entered the tubes. I entered YouTube. And I'm not going to talk about it today. I do want to talk about one of the videos I'd like to record here in the next couple of weeks or month, is what influenced me, or who influenced me to be a content creator, both in the YouTube and podcast space. So we'll get to that. But I thought, what better way to kick off my revival of my YouTube channel, which I don't even want to call it revival, because let's be honest, I don't know if this is actually going to go anywhere, but I do want to come back and say hello. But I thought it'd be fun to reminisce. You guys can enjoy me embarrass myself as I watch my first YouTube video. I haven't done this in a while, but what do you say we just go ahead and just pull it right up here? And by the way, this YouTube channel, Ari Lewis 2011, was built on mediocrity, and it's going to remain as such. I'm actually using Zoom to record this, and because I didn't want to finagle with OBS or XSplit or whatever other software's out there. I don't know. Someday I'll learn. But for the time being, let's share my screen here, and let's just watch this crazy video that I recorded 10 years ago, Dragonball Origins 2 unboxing. Shall we get this started?
Hey guys, what's going on?
Look at that kid. 10 years ago. 17 here.
Today I'm going to be unwrapping, sort of.
Unwrapping, sort of. Not unboxing.
Dragonball Origins 2 for the Nintendo DS. It was released in North America June 29th, or June 22nd, I believe.
Get it together, kid. Come on. Know your dates.
I'll probably be doing a review later this week, but right now I just wanted to open it.
Which I did come through with that. I actually did record a review of that. A really shoddy review, but, you know, it was a review nonetheless.
Very well.
I got to give myself credit, though. My gosh, what a banger of a song.
Very big instruction booklet, not very small actually. It's all in black and white, of course.
This is the days of the color manuals, right?
The prologue says,
it'll never be the same.
Goku set off for another adventure, only to be confronted by the most evil army in the world. The World Martial Arts Tournament has concluded.
I also got to give myself credit for that incredible audio balancing.
Upon parting ways with his friends, Goku decides to once again search for Dragon Balls in order to reclaim the 4-star ball. The memento.
Jeez, that's so bad. All right, let's see. Do I
be doing a review later this week, so
that's
you
right.
guys just
Stay tuned.
Keep watching my channel, and I'll probably have a review for you guys. All right, thanks a lot, guys.
Look at that transition too. Gosh, that was so good. Comment if you want to see a review of the game. Oh, original Red Ribbon Army theme. Wow, that was something else. I'll tell you what. I hope you enjoyed that as much as I did, because wow, I encourage everyone to keep their old videos up. You know what? It's really cool to go back and watch. Obviously, it's embarrassing, humiliating to some, but I think it's kind of neat to see where you once were and where you are now, right? Because that's 17-year-old Rusty. I grew my hair, the Rogaine worked, and now I'm recording a podcast with my brother-in-law. I've come a long way. I'm proud of that. I think that's really pretty cool. But my gosh, that was awful. That was terrible. But I figured it was fun to share with all of you fine people, because it's been nearly 10 years since I recorded that video. 10 years. That's crazy. A lot's happened since then. I've gotten married, graduated from college, got a dog, most importantly. But yeah, no, it's cool stuff to see that. But I do want to just talk about my gaming tastes, how they have changed, what I've been playing over the past several years. And I figured, what better way? My gosh, did I always record videos without drinking anything? My stamina levels have gone down in my old age. But I figured, what better way to start than talking about the Dark Souls trilogy and Bloodborne, the FromSoft games, because for those that have watched my channel, you'll maybe know, I don't even know if I ever talked about it, but I played Dark Souls 3, not Dark Souls 3, Dark Souls 1, when it first released back in 2011. And it just wasn't my thing. The difficulty, I got to the Gaping Dragon, I believe, and it was just, the challenge of it was infuriating. And I didn't understand the games. Flash forward to a couple years ago when Bloodborne came out. I was actually studying for my CPA exam. I was studying for that, and it was a grueling process, but I encouraged my brother-in-law at the time, but this is before we had started the podcast, to play Bloodborne, because it was all the rage at the time. Everyone was talking about Bloodborne. It had really reinvented the FromSoft games at the time, and he loved it. He fell in love with Bloodborne, and he has since gone through all the games. And once I passed my exam, I remember I had Bloodborne, the case, actually, like in front of my computer to kind of motivate me to study and pass the exam, which I ended up doing. And the first thing I did was I played Bloodborne prior to going back and playing Dark Souls. And it was one of the most refreshing, rewarding, satisfying gaming experiences I'd had in quite some time, because once you get over that initial hump with the From Software games, they're they're unlike anything else in gaming, I would say. Just because the sense of accomplishment when you defeat a boss that you've just been driving you up a wall for potentially days, just hundreds of attempts, dozens, whatever it might be. But like Martyr Ligarius or Father Gascoigne, the beginning of the game, even. It's just some of those bosses that were just so crazy, but the sense of accomplishment in these games is really unparalleled for me. And I think for that, I'm just so excited where the series ends up going. Of course, the PlayStation 5 reveal recently with Demon Souls looks stunning. I'm so excited to go back and play that game because over the past couple months ago, actually, I went back and tried to play Demon Souls, and it's brutal. It's definitely could use some quality of life updates, but they've definitely come a long way since Demon Souls with Dark Souls 1. Even though Miyazaki left with 2, I think that's a great game and worth playing. 3 is next level, and Bloodborne is just in a league of its own. And so I'm so glad that I've gone back. I'm a huge From Software fan. Very much looking forward to see what Elden Ring even is. Sekiro is not for me. Sekiro Shadows Die Twice was not the samurai game I was looking for. I think I think Ghost of Tsushima is going to be what I wanted out of Sekiro, at least from what I've seen so far. But Bloodborne, the Dark Souls games, they've been an absolute gaming treat for me. And I continue to go back and play them, create new characters, because there's so much of this game or in these games to unpack. It's very much like a Skyrim where each time you play it, you can approach it differently. And I think for that, they make for very special games. And I'm a very big fan. The next game I want to talk about is a series that I didn't get into until the Wii. And funny enough, people say, oh, that was the first time you played Resident Evil. And yes, Resident Evil 4 on the Wii, which is actually the version that I prefer. I don't know if I'd say that today if it went back, because the motion controls, I think, added to the intensity. I think it just made the game a lot more fun and intense during some of those boss battles because, you know, you're using the waggle controls as opposed to sitting on the comfort of your couch playing the game with the controller. But it introduced me to a series that I have come to really love, right? Resident Evil 5, I think, certainly kind of led the series down a path that many fans didn't appreciate. I thought 5 was fun. It's a great co-op game. 6 is nearly unrecognizable as a Resident Evil game, in my opinion. And if anything, I think it should have just been an extension of Call of Duty Zombies. I think if you remove the character skins of Chris Redfield and Leon Kennedy and Ada Wong and put in some generic Call of Duty character in there, man, it would have looked exactly like a Call of Duty Zombies game because it is just a run-and-gun zombie third-person shooter. It's okay. It doesn't really earn its Resident Evil name, for me personally. Capcom learned with Resident Evil 7. This was a complete hit of the reset button for the series. I think in the best of ways. I think for video games, I've never been more frightened. Even in the entertainment medium, bringing in movies and TV, I've never been so scared in my entire life, probably dating back to when I was 6 years old, when my mom sat me down and had me watch John Carpenter's original Halloween and Pet Sematary and It, you know, movies that I never should have been watching at 6 years old, but I did. I guess it turned out all right. But I have not been so scared out of my mind playing a game than I have been with Resident Evil 7. And I think the move to first person was brilliant. I thought it was such a great way of amplifying the horror elements. And as you're exploring this gross, broken down, decaying home as Ethan searching for your wife, trying to figure out why she's been missing for so many years. Who in the world is this disgusting family that inhabits this home? And all the crazy twists and turns that this game takes over the course of its 8 to 12 hour experience, depending on, you know, how much you explore, is just exhilarating. It's mentally exhausting, but my goodness, is it a trip worth taking. And it was such a treat to see Resident Evil 8 or Village debut during the PlayStation 5 conference last week. I was just on the edge of my seat in excitement hearing that announcement and just seeing how Ethan's story is going to come to a close is going to be thrilling, and I can't wait. Definitely day one. I hope it comes to PS4 because I don't know if I'm going to buy in day one for PS5 and Series X, but Resident Evil 7 is certainly a special game. I'm really glad they're continuing Ethan's story in first person on the or in Resident Evil 8. Should be really good times. Now, enough of the PlayStation 4, right? I'm a Nintendo guy. I recently, 2 years ago, I got the Nintendo Switch. And it's funny because it was at a time where my wife, her birthday is in November. And so leading up to that, of course, we had Super Smash Bros. Ultimate on the near horizon. And we also had Pokemon Let's Go, Pikachu, and Eevee. And so that limited edition console was coming out, the yellow and brown to complement Eevee and Pikachu's colors. And I knew that I had to get that for my wife for her birthday because she's a very big Nintendo fan. And so I pre-ordered that console. I gave it to her on her birthday. And she kind of had this look of like semi-terror, semi-joy because unbeknownst to me, she pre-ordered me the Super Smash Bros. Ultimate limited edition Switch console that eventually came out in December. We have 2 Switches. What are we going to do? So we figured we just keep the systems because we would have ended up getting another Nintendo Switch anyways, so that her and I could both play this little game called Animal Crossing New Horizons. My history with the Animal Crossing series really only comes from New Leaf on the 3DS. I played whatever the DS game was. I think Wild World was, no, City Folk was on the Wii, Wild World was DS. I played a little of the DS game. And it was okay, but I never really got sucked in. The 3DS game, played it for 40 hours within the first week, got burnt out, put it down. New Horizons, I was trying to stop myself from doing the same thing, but I think over the course of like 3 weeks, I put in over 105 hours in that game. So effortlessly. Like it's funny because this next game that I'm going to talk about, I'll just talk hypothetically here. When I look at an RPG like Final Fantasy 15, or even going back and playing a Final Fantasy game that I haven't played, like 12 or 10 or 8 or 7 remake, but playing the original in 7, it's just like I look up the how long to beat because I'm an adult now and I have so many adult things that I have to attend to. I hope that doesn't come across too pretentious. I just mean we have to be more mindful of the things we spend our time on, right? Because there's just so much going on. And I look at a game like Final Fantasy whatever, and it's like 40, 60, 80, 100 plus hours, and it's just like, I don't know if I have the time for that. And then in 3 weeks, I put over 100 hours in Animal Crossing. It's so easy to do. It's just such an addicting game, and graphically stunning. Playing with friends has never been more fun, although the loading times are atrocious every time someone comes to your island. I'm not editing that out. Again, this video, this channel was founded upon mediocrity. But yeah, no, Animal Crossing New Horizons is just such a delight to play. I think I'm so glad they delayed the game because I can only imagine the things that they were able to accomplish and have at launch that they otherwise wouldn't have if they hadn't delayed it. The museum is stunning. Going into the aquarium, if I had to highlight my favorite gaming moments of all time, it would be going into the aquarium and the serene ambient music that plays. If I'm stressed, had a bad day at work, this is the first game I'm going to. I'm going to the aquarium where the tuna and the marlin swim. It's just this gargantuan tank that sits there. Your character just sits and stares at it, and that ambient music plays. It's so good. And of course, decorating your home, talking to your islanders, going to other islands, collecting fruits, finding new flowers, breeding new flowers. The gameplay loop hasn't really changed, and it's just as addicting as ever. The question remains, will Rusty go back to this game this year? Probably. But I'm not like anxiously anticipating that right now. I know there's new fish coming out every month, but it's certainly going to, show up on my games of the year list because I put over 105 hours into it. And I loved every minute of it. It's good stuff. Continuing with the Switch, a little game called Xenoblade Chronicles, the definitive edition. My goodness, is this game nothing short of stunning. I never played it on the Wii. I went out of my way to secure a copy for like 60, I guess it was like $60, $65. I know GameStop, they were kind of hoarding all those copies. Remember that craziness when that leaked out, that they just had a warehouse full of these games? And I just never played it for whatever reason. None of the Operation Rainfall games, Pandora's Tower, Last Story, that's the other one, right? Yeah, and Xenoblade Chronicles, I never played any of them. But Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition kind of fell into that bucket where it was like, gosh, that just seems like such a daunting RPG to play. But my goodness, am I so thankful that I finally did play it, because, and I talked about this on the podcast, if I could subtitle this something other than Definitive Edition, it would be Quality of Life RPG. And I don't know if all of this carried over from the Wii version or if these were some quality of life updates they have as a result of this remaster or remake. But I love the idea of going into a hub like Colony 9 and talking to all of these NPCs, gathering all of these side quests that I can do, running into the wild, the phenomenal soundtrack by Yoko Shimomura, the same composer of one of my favorite games of all time in Kingdom Hearts. A lot of similarities there in the melodies. And just scavenging the lands for the different beasts and monsters and creatures that you have to kill. You finish these side quests, and it doesn't require you to go back to the NPC to complete the quest. Immediately when you slay the monster or you gather the materials, quest completed, you're immediately rewarded with the experience points and the associated money for the quest. And I love how respectful of your time the game is in that sense. The music, again, is terrific. What I think I was worried most about this game was the combat system. Now, it's no secret that I'm a huge fan of Final Fantasy XIII, a game that was not only divisive because of its linearity, but the paradigm system, the combat, that people felt like you were kind of just on the sidelines issuing these commands, button mashing. Well, I'll tell you what, get to chapter 9, or really even earlier chapters, fight some of those boss battles, and tell me if you were just mashing an X button, because that's not the case. That game definitely requires precision, understanding the nuance of the paradigm system, understanding its complexities, knowing which paradigms work with which bosses and things like that. It's definitely complex, more than people let on. But again, I guess I'm no stranger to combat systems that people didn't like, and Xenoblade Chronicles is no different, because it has this hotbar at the bottom of the screen, as many people that know that have played the game, and you issue these commands, these attacks, buffs, debuffs, healing spells, and things of that nature. But I love it. I love throwing on a podcast or throwing on a YouTube video and just enjoying that combat system, because it reminds me of the 50 magical hours I put in Lord of the Rings Online, an MMORPG last year. Played it for the first time, kind of fulfilled a childhood dream of mine when that game originally announced. I didn't have a PC to play it, but it reminds me of that. And I'm playing on the casual difficulty setting because, yeah, it's maybe if I was playing on a harder difficulty setting, it would drive me insane, because it is pretty complex. It's kind of like Final Fantasy 13 in that sense, where there's a lot of nuance into it, but I don't care. I'm playing on casual. I'm running through the game. I'm getting to experience the story, appreciate the environments, the graphical detail, these environments that on a scale of Breath of the Wild to me, because it's just so stunning that a game like this, when you're roaming these environments, can fit on this little tiny Switch cart. It's just breathtaking. I love the game so far. I'm 25 hours in. I will absolutely be playing this through the rest of the year. Of course, we have Last of Us Part 2 next week, Ghost of Tsushima a month after that, and so many good games we still don't know about coming in the months ahead. But Xenoblade Chronicles is a game I will continue to return to, because it is a game that values my time, and for that, I'm willing to pump several hours into this, because I always feel like I'm accomplishing something and progressing. I never feel like it's slowing me down. You know what I'm saying? It's just really good stuff and really good times. So Xenoblade Chronicles was a definite must pick up for me. This next one is interesting because, like Final Fantasy 13, I guess, to keep making that comparison, There's a lot of hype surrounding it. And it definitely did not satisfy the masses. That is a little game called Ukulele. This is a game that, when it was originally released, originally hyped up and marketed, its Kickstarter, it was kind of touted as the spiritual successor to Banjo-Kazooie, which, as many of you know, those are big shoes to fill, right? Because that was one of the greatest 3D platformers of the N64 PS1 day that really competed with or continued as if Mario passed the baton to the next 3D open 3D platformer. Banjo-Kazooie was it, as was Donkey Kong 64. And so everyone was saying, oh my gosh, this is this generation's Mario 64. That's kind of how it was hyped up to be. And obviously, it never could have been that, right? Because there was a fraction of the team that was at Rare when they were developing Banjo-Kazooie. They didn't have the funding or the resources to make that game. And even if they did, they never could have satisfied everyone. They never would have been able to please everyone, if you will. I'll leave it at that. Because, again, Banjo-Kazooie are big shoes to fill. But what I think they did create was a beautiful throwback that reminds people of the heyday of 3D platformers. I think Yuka and Laylee are an adorable little dynamic duo. I think they complement Banjo and Kazooie relatively well. I think you have your crazy collectathon levels, plenty of things to collect with the pages instead of jiggies. I think there's so many nostalgic nods to Banjo-Kazooie in this game. And then, at the very least, you have the man, the myth, the legendary composer, Grant Kirkhope, reprising his role in the developer, or in the composer chair that he did for Banjo-Kazooie and Banjo-Tooie, I'm sorry, I'm like fumbling over my words now, for Ukulele. And I think he does a terrific job. I think there's just so much there. And I think it's something really special. And if you follow me on my podcast, or even in Pete Door's kind of space on his Twitch channel or his Discord, you'll know that I'm a huge fan of Ukulele. So much so that I have this wonderful little plush doll here with Yuka and Laylee. I have the vinyl soundtrack. I have the CD soundtrack. I have it on Switch. I actually got the Platinum Trophy on PS4. I suffered through that. Some of that was brutal and probably lessened my enjoyment of the game just a little bit. And I even recently got this on Kickstarter. Ukulele and the Cracklestone by DM Cumbo. This was something that I saw on Kickstarter, and what it is a beautiful comic book, actually. And he had all these different like little Kickstarter things. So I got this little bookmark, kind of a certificate of authenticity, the author and designer. He signed a little card here. But I mean, if you look at this, it's really beautiful. Very well done. Hardback spine, hardback book. I mean, he went all out with this. So I'm a huge fan of Ukulele, right? And I think it's just so cool to see some of these 3D platformers resurfacing, kind of a revival of the 3D platformer. If you played Skylar and Plux on PS4, or Poi, or even this little gem, New Super Lucky's Tale. Such a charming, delightful little platformer with this little fox named Lucky. It's also coming to PS4. Originally was only on the Xbox One, then came to Switch. Recently we got news that it's coming to the PS4. So it's really cool to see the 3D platformers coming back. I'm super happy, of course, because of that. And then some other games here that I wanted to quickly go through and just rattle off a bunch of games that I've been playing and enjoying, and then we'll call this a wrap, right? I'm rambling so much. Let me take a sip of coffee. Need to get my energy levels back up, because when I do a podcast, I at least have a co-host on the other side that takes some of this, right? I have breaks to drink some water, get some fluids. Now I don't have that. Some other games that I've enjoyed over the past several years. Final Fantasy 15. They heard the Final Fantasy 13 haters. This game, completely open world. You have 4 dudes going on an adventure. It's far more than that, though. There's actually a rather emotional tale here. Prince Noctis and his lover of sorts, if you will. I think Final Fantasy 15, maybe I'll do another episode just talking about this, because I could go on for at least an hour talking about this. It's a really special game, and I loved it. I beat that actually earlier this year. Kingdom Hearts 3, did it live up to my expectations? After 15 years, I'm not sure it ever could have, but I think it certainly did enough. And I'm looking forward to seeing the insanity that Tetsuya Nomura has in store for us with Sora moving forward. Middle-earth: Shadow of War, of course, the sequel to the incredibly ambitious Shadow of Mordor with the Nemesis system. I'm surprised we have not seen a game kind of copy and paste that gameplay mechanic, because it's brilliant. This was definitely a worthy successor. The ending is far better and more exciting than the very disappointing final boss in Shadow of Mordor. The sense of scale in this, everything is just exponentially better to the nth degree. Really enjoyed my time with this. I actually spent over 80 hours playing this game, nearly getting the Platinum Trophy, did just about everything, including the DLC. Highly recommend these games if you're looking for kind of a Dragon Age. I don't even know how to compare this, because, again, I'm running out of words to say here, but Middle-earth: Shadow of War is an excellent game. Very much enjoyed my time with that. Some other games that I've enjoyed over the course of the past several years. On the Switch side of things, I've really enjoyed Yoshi. I'm really running out of words, folks. You know what? We're just going to call this a wrap here, right? Because I'm going to stop while I'm ahead. I hope everyone enjoyed this little mini return to YouTube for me. Again, in the near future, what I'd love to do is just talk about what really influenced me in the beginning. Why am I a content creator? Why did I create a YouTube channel to begin with? Why in God's green earth is the name R.E. Lewis 2011? How pathetic is that? And why did I create a podcast? And if you want to check out the podcast, please do. I'll have links to all of that here in the notes below. But beyond that, I also just want to talk about how YouTube influenced my collecting habits, but also how my collecting habits have changed significantly and dramatically in the past few years, and how I've done so many purges of my collection just because, everyone knows that was part of the YouTube gaming community back then. You were buying like it was going out of style. And I'm sure many people since then have gotten rid of a lot of stuff and have focused on the things that bring them the most joy. And I'm certainly no different in that regard. So I'd love to talk about that and kind of how I focused my collecting habits. But all of that to say, thank you, everyone that ends up watching this. If you're still here, God bless you. My goodness. This has been a rambling adventure. I figured there was going to be a point where I would just kind of short circuit and just not really know what I'm saying anymore. And I got to that when I was like, let's just talk about a whole bunch of random games I haven't prepared for to talk about. But thank you so much for watching. Thank you, Pete, Craig, Jenny, Steph, and so many others that inspired me to get behind the mic and behind the camera again to record another video. And maybe we'll see you in the next one. No promises, though. And no editing, so this is going to be an awkward end. Thanks for watching, everyone.